This is John Carpenter, and you have just joined Journey with Mary. This is a weekly show in which we go back into history and examine carefully visits by our Blessed Mary to us. She has been there for us all along, over 2,000 some years, and these are stories of her visits. These aren't mystical experiences, or they call them apparitions, which sound like ghostly visions. These are actually true visits by her, and I come by that in an interesting perspective. I was a Methodist all my life, as my father was a Methodist minister, but 4 years ago I became Catholic and I began studying the Virgin Mary, and I was amazed at the rich history that's there, of which many Catholics are not even aware of. And so I began studying all these things and found them of great interest, and then I began to see something that no one would see unless you study these like I have. You start to see patterns of details reoccurring over and over, despite what century it's in, despite what country it's in, despite what year. It didn't matter whether it was 6 children or an older shepherd, or it didn't matter where they were. And of course, many people would think, oh, it's just baloney. It's a bunch of craziness. The Virgin Mary wouldn't be around, and that's just a bunch of baloney. Well, Jesus said, behold your mother, and gave his mother to all of us. And she was crowned Queen of Heaven. And it's true. She comes and she shows up, and she's got the crown on her head, and she is truly adorned with the sun, as it says in Revelation. It's amazing. And these aren't people who read a bunch of books and want to see her. Many of them don't even believe in her, and yet they see her. As our story tonight will show you several times over, that many people saw her that didn't expect to see her at all. Now, I work as a psychiatric therapist, so I should be the first one to say it's all hallucination, delusion, religious fervor, hysteria, all sorts of things it must be, right? Well, I can tell you, as a professional in the mental health field and as a psychiatric therapist, these are real experiences. And the pattern of details give it a reality that you would not have. You would not have that if they were, fanciful hallucinations or creative delusions, or any of that stuff would be all unique and divergent, and nothing would match up or be the same. Not when you get down to the tiniest little details that repeat from century to century, from country to country, from witness to witness. And all the witnesses who have been psychologically tested have all passed with flying colors. So I can say that, but also the experts who have dealt with the visionaries can say that as well. These are normal people having supernatural experiences, and we need to pay attention because this is our Blessed Mother from heaven. That's why I'm doing this show, because I'm so impressed with this information. I wanted the whole world to hear about it. And it's not about me. It's about Mary and how she comes to us. My co-host tonight is Donald Hartley, the Catholic Defender. How are you tonight, Donald?
Man, I've got some information for you tonight. And ordinarily, I wait till towards the end when we present someone that's listening in. But tonight, because we are going to China, we have a listener from China tonight, and I just want to say, welcome, Vienna. Her name is Vienna. Truthfully, it is. And she's from Macao. I'm not sure how to say that or how you would put that out there. Macau. Okay, but she's from China, and she's listening in tonight. And I just wanted to say, to me, I just thought that was awesome. So I'm expecting some great things tonight. We do have a couple of callers online, and I just want them to hold tight for a little while because I want you to get your story out, and then I'll bring the callers on.
Well, we're going to Italy first, and hopefully then we'll have time for China. I plan to cover it, but let me go ahead with the story. And Italy often has a few apparitions. This one occurred in 1888. That's 1888 in March. And the place, which I'd never heard of, is called Castel Petroso. That's Castelpetroso. Never heard of it. And
you did really well there. I'd have been fumbling all over myself with that one.
Well, I've looked at it enough times I've kind of figured it out now. So, having given that introduction, I think you'll find this story interesting because a number of the people who saw her, well, they didn't necessarily believe in her. So this is a very interesting little story. Here we go. On March 22nd, 1888, the day before the Feast of the Compassion of Our Blessed Lady, 2 peasant women were shepherding their sheep on the hills in southern Italy near the village of Castel Petroso. Fabiana Caccino, a 35-year-old virgin, and Serafina Valentino, a 34-year-old married, 34 and 35 years old, belonged to Pastine, a hamlet in the diocese of Bojano. One of their sheep had strayed onto a hill nearest Castel Petroso. Fabiana found the lost sheep in a ravine near some rocks. But a strange light was coming from a crack in the rock. The rays of the bright light formed a clear image of our Blessed Virgin on her knees with her eyes gazing upward toward heaven. Her arms were outstretched in an act of imploring and offering of her Son, full of wounds and lying dead beneath her. It was the image of the Pietà. Mary appeared as Our Lady of Sorrows, wearing a deep red dress and dark mantle. She was a very beautiful, fair-skinned young woman with disheveled hair, which means messed up hair, and bleeding from wounds received from 7 swords.
Hey, John.
The blessed, yeah.
John, before you go on anymore, you're kind of cutting in and out with your talking. I'm not sure exactly if it's how you're holding your phone or where you're sitting. Try to let me try to speak a little bit more here and let me check this out because I hear you kind of going out, and then we got Joseph from Colorado, member of Deeper Truth out there, who's also letting me know, so it's more than just my phone.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm in a different location tonight. Is this better now? Do you hear me better?
Yeah, you sound real clear there.
Okay. You want me to start over? Would that help? Because we got
go
time.
ahead. Yeah.
All right. This is Castel Petroso, Italy, 1888. On March 22nd, 1888, the day before the Feast of the Compassion of Our Blessed Lady, 2 peasant women were shepherding their sheep on the hills in southern Italy near the village of Castel Petroso. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, it's still you're starting to kind of wane in and out. I don't know why.
I don't know either. I'm not moving.
You're sounding clear there. You're sounding clear there.
Okay, well, I'll go on. Fabiano Caccino, 35-year-old virgin, and Serafina Valentino, a 34-year-old married woman, belonged to Pastine, a hamlet in the diocese of Bojano. One of their sheep had strayed onto a hill nearest Castel Petroso. Fabiana found the lost sheep in a ravine near some rocks. But a strange light was coming from a crack in the rocks. The rays of the bright light formed a clear image of our Blessed Virgin on her knees with her eyes gazing toward heaven. Her arms were outstretched in an act of imploring and offering of her Son, full of wounds and lying dead beneath her. It was the image of the Pietà. Mary appeared as Our Lady of Sorrows, wearing a deep red dress and a dark mantle. She was a very beautiful, fair-skinned young woman with disheveled hair and bleeding from wounds received from 7 swords. The Blessed Virgin never spoke. When Serafina caught up to Fabiano, she could not see anything. Now, are you hearing me okay?
We're able to hear you. It's,
Okay.
We're just having to deal with it. It may be just the lines out there.
Okay. I'll just speak up real loud, see if that helps. They returned home crying, sobbing, trembling, and terrified. People naturally inquired as to the cause of their emotions, but very few believed them, and nobody paid much attention to their statements. During the solemnity of Easter on April 1st, 1888, the same vision occurred again to these 2 women in the same location. This time, Serafina also witnessed the apparition. More people became curious after this encounter and began to believe that something was truly happening there. People began to go to the mountain and visit the spot of the alleged apparition, some 2,600 feet above sea level. First, a child saw Mary. Then, an avowed heretic witnessed her also. Now that's interesting, Donald, that somebody who doesn't even believe saw her next.
Wow, that's important, I think, because the Lord still loves them and is hoping that they will wake up. I would think that something like that would make you wake up.
And I've seen that happen a number of times. It's like deliberate. They know that there's a disbeliever there, and so they deliberately appear to them just to rock their world. Others affirmed that they saw our Blessed Virgin bearing her dead son in her arms. So other people are seeing her. Pilgrimages began, and within a few days, some 4,000 persons visited the spot, which was double the number of those living there. Soon, this place, which had been generally unknown, suddenly became the center of attraction to countless crowds from the neighboring countryside. Of those who went, some testified that they saw the Blessed Virgin as Our Lady of Carmel, Our Lady of Grace, and also Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary. But most of the time, she appeared as Our Lady of Sorrows. She was usually alone, but was sometimes accompanied by Saint Michael, Saint Anthony, or Saint Sebastian. Among those who testified to these apparitions was a well-known disbeliever who received the grace of seeing Our Lady 4 times in half an hour, and he was a well-known disbeliever. So, once again, she makes sure that when disbelievers are present, she's going to make sure that they see her. So that's always interesting to me. All right, so the apparitions were accompanied by another phenomenon in May of 1888. The body of water at the foot of the mountain began bestowing miracles. Soon, believers from other countries came in masses to behold and experience the extraordinary event and the fountain of miracles. Angelo Verna, a 6-year-old mute boy, was given a drink of this water by his father and was completely healed by receiving the gift of speech. The priest in the diocese treated the whole affair as delusional and preached against it. But a second priest, Don Luigi Ferrara, was also a disbeliever, that is, until he saw her. And now, listen to the statement by that priest who was a disbeliever, and then he saw her, and this is his statement now. Quote, I had many times derided and made fun of those who visited the mountain on which these wonderful apparitions took place. On May 16, 1888, however, I felt a desire to visit the place. When I arrived, I began to look into one of the fissures in the rocks, and I saw with great clearness Our Lady, like a statuette, with a little child in her arms. After a short interval, I looked again at the same spot, and in place of the Most Holy Virgin, I saw quite clearly the dead Savior bearing the crown of thorns and all covered in blood. Whenever I think of these visions on this mountain, I am moved to tears and cannot speak, unquote. So that's rather important. This is a priest who did not believe and was making fun of people who were claiming this, and then he goes, has his own experience, and he's so moved, he just gets like goosebumps when he thinks about it. So that's impressive.
Very much
News
so.
of the... Go ahead.
No, I was just saying very much so. That any time
Yeah.
that the Lord can touch anyone's heart, that's just it's a miracle in itself.
It really is, and I love it when it happens because, you see, many people just assume that those that see the Virgin Mary want to see her, expect to see her, and get their wish. And it's really quite the opposite. People go because they want to disprove it, claim it's a hoax, make fun of it, and they end up seeing her.
That is amazing.
You can't fake that. You just can't fake that. All right. So news of these occurrences reached Monsignor Francesco Macaron Palmieri, Bishop of the Diocese of Bolzano. While in Rome on business, he updated Pope Leo XIII on the events near Castel Petroso, adding that he should have liked the apparitions to have been confirmed by some clear sign. Well, the Pope replied by asking the bishop if he did not think the apparitions in themselves were signs. Pope Leo XIII asked the bishop to return to the site of the apparitions and make a further investigation. On the morning of September 26, 1988, the bishop returned to the site and had the privilege of witnessing the vision of Mary as Our Lady of Sorrows. Just as Fabiana and Serafina had described. After observing Our Lady on 3 occasions, he proceeded to file his official report. So here this bishop has gone to the Pope, wants some clear sign. The Pope says, hey, go back and look again. And when he does, now he sees her himself. And so the bishop files this report. Quote, the Blessed Virgin appeared daily, more frequently, as the Mother of Sorrows, and at other times as Our Lady of Mount Carmel, or the Queen of the Holy Rosary. A number of persons affirmed that they saw apparitions of St. Michael, St. Anthony, St. Joseph, St. Sebastian, together with the Blessed Virgin, and also the Holy Face of Jesus, surrounded by angels. As the event became more widely known, he goes on, and acquired a high degree of credibility, I deemed it expedient to have an account reduced to writing and certified to by the depositions under oath of those who had been eyewitnesses of the prodigy. The preparation of this report occupied several months. When it was completed, I took it in person to Rome to submit it to the Pope so that he might pronounce authoritatively and definitively on the matter. I myself can bear witness that I visited the sacred spot and after some time spent in prayer, saw the apparition of the Blessed Virgin. At first, the image of Our Lady appeared faint and indistinct, but at length she appeared in the attitude and proportions of the representation of the Mother of Sorrows, published in one of the numbers of the Servo de Maria. Besides myself and the very large number of persons whose names are recorded in the official report, there are the Vicar General of the diocese, the Archpriest of the Cathedral, and many other ecclesiastics who also beheld the miraculous apparition. With joyful heart, I affirm that the wonders happening in Castel Petroso are the last touches of the divine mercy to call those who have gone far from the right way, unquote. Wow, what a statement.
That's a huge statement. And
yeah, boy,
in our day
was
and
moved.
time especially, what an opportunity for us to have. It says in Acts chapter 2:17 that it will come to pass that he would pour out his Spirit upon all flesh. Your young men shall see visions, your old men shall dream dreams, indeed the handmaids of the Lord shall prophesy. And our Lord he's out there to gain souls. And he loves each person. If you were the only person here on this face of the earth, he would have gone through everything just for love of you. Think about that in a personal way. And yet he did this for everyone. And that's a powerful thing. And he did this not with the intent, that you were straightened out when he did it, but he did this when we were dead in our sin. That's an amazing thing. We need him so much. And that's why Our Lady is so adamant about all of this, because she understands. She sees this. She loves us as a loving mother, if you want to understand it from that perspective. And so when you see these things, it's only to support and help us. It's for our benefit. And that is really, to me, I think that is what this is all about. All of these.
Well, I agree with you. I agree 100%. And if you notice in this particular story, she didn't say anything. She often has messages or comments or warnings or comments of some sort, or just even a short message, and she didn't say a single word. Just the picture was worth 1,000 words, you might say. Just seeing her inspired so many people, drew thousands, and the miraculous water was healing, and all sorts of things were going on. We've heard that water before.
Yes,
miraculous
we did.
Water.
Yes, we did.
Heard it at La
Lourdes.
Salette and Lourdes and other places too. And Saluva. I mean, different places. It keeps popping up that water is a very important thing. And you've mentioned on other shows how, of course, water is used for baptism. And,
right.
Water is used in other ways too. Yeah, holy water. So, and here again, Mountainous Spring suddenly comes forth and is healing people in the waters. So let me wrap this. We still have a little bit more on this story, and it gets even more interesting with some of the things that happened. In November of the same year, 1888, Count Charles Acquadurni, director of the magazine Servo de Maria, went to the Blessed Rocks with his son Augusto, who was sick with a serious bone tuberculosis. Miraculously, the boy was healed at the site. On December 18th, 1889, that's about a year later, Father Joseph Lace, a physicist, medical doctor, and sub-director of the Vatican Observatory, examined everything and was convinced that no optical tricks or illusions could be responsible for what people had been seeing. He says, quote, "The observations I made of the character of the people lead me to recognize that they are profoundly convinced of the event having taken place. Their simple and ingenious demeanor does not suggest the suspicion that the fact should be to some extent fanciful or the effect of imagination." Now, he sounds like a physicist, doesn't he?
Yeah.
"The formation of the rocks excludes the theory of trickery." So basically he's saying he's checked it all out and he can't find any physical reason for people to be seeing this so-called illusion, and he says that they're seeing what they're seeing. The Bishop of Bojano formed a committee in 1889 to begin collecting funds for a church to be built on the site of the apparition. Pope Leo XIII blessed their work, imparting the apostolic blessing to the members of the committee and to all those who contributed to the funds. The cornerstone for a beautiful Gothic church was laid in May of 1890 in front of 30,000 faithful. The layout symbolizes a heart with 7 chapels at its center, representing the 7 sorrows and the 7 swords of Mary, the 7 swords that pierce her heart. That's kind of a cool design. You know, it looks like a heart, and it's got 7 chapels at its center. That's pretty cool.
Very much so.
And finally, on December 6, 1973, Pope Paul VI proclaimed the Blessed and Sorrowful Virgin Mary as patroness of the region upon a request by the Bishop of Molise. Pope John Paul II visited this sanctuary as a pilgrim on March 19, 1995. A community of friars and sisters has been established since 1993 called the Franciscans of the Immaculate. And that is the very well hidden story of Castel, Petroso, Italy, 1888. What did you think of that, Donald?
That is really powerful. One thing that sticks out in my mind that kind of reminds me of Knock, Ireland, that nothing was said there either, but yet everybody was brought to it strengthened their faith in all the miracles, thousands of miracles. And something that I thought was very interesting, I was just looking at, when you go to John chapter 10, verse 38, I'll go to actually 37, it says, "If I do not perform my Father's works, do not believe me. But if I perform them, even if you do not believe me, believe the works, so that you may realize and understand that the Father is in me, and I am in the Father." Think about that for a minute. That is powerful.
Wow, that's great.
It is powerful.
It is.
And these signs, exactly. And something else that you were talking about too, because it also, I love this story about the doubting Thomas, that Jesus said, "Blessed are you, Thomas, because you believe, because you have seen. But blessed are they who have not seen, but who believe." And so, a lot of times when these apparitions do take place, when Mary does appear at these places, when the word gets out there, it spreads fast, and people come from all kinds. When you have all these people, even a priest who was putting this down, when he goes out there, maybe out of curiosity, maybe just to observe or whatever. But when he goes there, he sees it, and what an impact this brings. And the Lord is using all of this for His glory. And
it's interesting because it says that the priest suddenly one day just had this urge to go there. Well, we know what that means. he just had this funny urge to go there. That's what he called it. He had a funny urge to go there. We know he was led there.
What does the church officially say about this? I'm being asked about that.
Well, with Pope Paul VI involved, Pope Leo XIII involved, and Pope John Paul II involved, that's what they called an implied acceptance. Whether it's officially accepted or not, it's the bishop has given its approval, and that's all it needs to be basically approved by the church. So the bishop says, yeah, hey, this is good. And the popes have followed suit and recognized it. So it's basically an accepted apparition. It's not one that you read about or see very often. It took me a couple years to even run across it. And, I'm looking constantly. and it escaped my attention for the longest time. I sometimes stumble across these, but boy, it was packed with all sorts of little goodies, once I got into it.
Well, it's kind of like that, what happened in Wisconsin. The bishop there, that was just real recent. It was in, 1859 that this took place, but it was really recent that the bishop there, authorized it or legitimized it, whatever, through all that they have gone through and investigated, they came out and said, this is true. And so for Catholics, it's it's okay for us to accept it or recognize it or to look into it.
And so Catholics think if it's not accepted right away, kind of like Medjugorje, if it's not accepted right away, well, then it must be full of problems. It must be, must not be real. And I've done a little statistics on, a sampling of these apparitions, and the average length of time for church approval is 57 years. That's the average. The shortest one ever was 1 month, and the longest one was 386 years.
Wow.
If you're going to wait, if you're going to wait for approval, you're probably going to miss out on a lot, because they do eventually get approved. It's important for many people to realize that, because people think, if it's not approved right away, there must be something wrong. And they don't get it. See, Medjugorje's only been 30 years, and that's well below the average still.
But when it says in 1 John chapter 4 again, we say this every now and then, but I think it's important because this is the baseline. It says, Beloved, do not trust every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they belong to God, because many false prophets have gone into the world, and this is how, but so it doesn't give a timetable on this. He gives us a church, and through that church, whatever timetable it takes to investigate to see whether the spirit, if you will, is of God or if it's of Satan or other, It doesn't give a timetable for that. So what
the approval committee looks for when they go through their official approval process, when it goes above the bishop and they want more investigation than even what the bishop has done, they supposedly have 7 scientists, 7 medical people, including psychiatric, and they have 7 theologians. Supposedly, that's the official makeup of an investigation committee. And one of the things they look for are fruits, like miracles and a great influence on the people. For example, Guadalupe, 9 million Indians were converted. And that's significant. That's not the work of a false prophet or a devil, because they wouldn't want that kind of result.
No.
You wouldn't want 9 billion believers if you're the evil side. So that's one thing they look for, is that it bears fruit, holy fruits, spiritual fruits, that you see good things coming out of it. And this one, of course, has miracle healings and great number of people converting and disbelievers now believing. And, so it did a lot of neat things, even though it's essentially unknown to most people, even Catholics. They've never heard of Castel Petroso. And like I said, it took me several years to even stumble across it. It's amazing how many things are hidden in our own history for whatever reason.
I tell you what, John, we got a couple of callers. You want to get them on before we go to the China?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's hear from the callers.
Okay, 254, area code 254. I got you on Deeper Truth. Good evening.
Well, hello, Don.
Hello, good evening.
Hi,
hello,
Don.
Hello.
Oh,
this is Brandy.
Howdy. Brandy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really good. I sent you a message on Facebook. This is the program I was exactly looking for. It's got so much. It's got so much truth and so much, blessings that come from it. And it shows us that if we believe and we have faith, it's there.
Good for you.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, and John has put a lot of effort and work on digging up a lot of these things about all these stories that are just so enriching. There's so many nuggets there. I think it's greater than gold. Gold.
It is.
People could be satisfied with all kinds, but this is greater than all the riches. To me, this is what is truly rich. In fact, it says in Psalms 45, referring to Our Lady, that the rich would seek her favor, and the rich we're talking about is not those who are, monetarily filled with all kinds of possessions, but those who are rich in spirit. And that's what this is all about, and that's what our Lord is calling us. Gold that is rich in spirit. And so that is so awesome. Oh, and Brandy, I'm so glad that you were able to find us and you got on the right show tonight.
Well, I've been very busy, and I've had some things come up. I'm sure you may have heard about it, but never lost the faith and never lost the grace. And tonight I just decided I'm making the time to sit down and be with you folks because you guys are my inspiration.
Well, thank you, Brandy. We're glad to have you with us.
That is so wonderful. And while I'm at this, we have also, and I believe the area code here is 417 from the great state of Missouri. So this is pretty close to you, John. So area code 417, are you present there? Are you there? Well, they may be simply...
If you're there,
okay.
Speak up. That's actually where I live. Yeah, so.
Yeah, this is over there. Well, they may be just listening in. Sometimes people listen in, and that's where they want to be. And we have. Oh, wait a second. We got another caller, and I know who this one is. This one is from Colorado. Hey, Joseph, how are you doing?
Hello there.
Hi,
Joseph.
How
you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Good. Hey, John. John, where do you do? I assume the internet mostly, but where do you do all your research from? How far do you research this? Do you contact Rome in any way at all?
Oh, no, there's several really good sites. One of them is the International Marian Research Institute at the University of Dayton in Ohio. They have the largest collection of materials on the Virgin Mary in the world. Oh. And you can access a lot of it online. There's also a very good source called the Miracle Hunter online. But what I do is often they'll refer to a book, and then I'll find it maybe on Amazon or library or somewhere, and I'll get the whole story from that book. They might just reference it and have a few sentences from it, but I'll track down the book and get the rest of the story. So there's numerous ways that I come about it, but the Internet sure helps track things down once I get a lead.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're about to go to China now.
Let's go to China. In fact, Vienna from, how did you say that, John? You had that so well when you said that earlier.
I think it's
Macau. Is that Macau?
I believe
China.
I believe it's a little island of China, if I remember right.
John,
anyway.
Tilt your head to the left real quick.
Okay.
And speak.
All right, I'm speaking now.
Okay, keep your head tilted to the left then. You sound real good there.
That's better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll keep it to the left. All right. All right, this is Donglu, China, D-O-N-G-L-U, China, and it's 1900, so we're breaking into the 1900s now. It's also called Tonglu, T-O-N-G-L-U. And it was a very poor village, formerly called the Place of Beggars. It was probably the poorest place in the whole region near Peiping, China. The Vincentian Fathers started a poor mission in Donglu, and by 1900, there were about 700 Christians gathered around the little hamlet. But suddenly, the Boxer Rebellion swept through China and grew to such proportions that even small little places like Donglu could not escape its fury. In April of 1900, a force of 10,000 hostile rebels and soldiers attacked Donglu. The Chinese priest of the village, Father Wu, prayed to Mary, asking for her help and protection. Now that's significant right there. The Catholic priest in Donglu asked Mary for help. And suddenly, a woman in a white robe, surrounded by light, appeared in the sky. It was the beautiful, glowing image of the Virgin Mary. The soldiers, in a senseless rage, started to fire their bullets into the sky at the Virgin Mary.
Oh, my word.
Okay,
wow.
You don't want to do that. Let me tell you right now, you do not want to do that. You know, like those commercials with Mother Nature, you don't want to mess with her. Oh, no. But the apparition was not harmed and did not fade away. But what did happen, the attackers did not have any time to reorganize because a fiery horseman, Saint Michael, who is the protector of the Virgin Mary, came charging down out of the sky towards them, surrounded by blazing flames of fire. The strange horseman put the fear into these 10,000 rebels, and they scattered like roaches and fled, never, ever to return. After they disappeared over the horizon, Father Wu then confessed to his flock that it was he that had invoked the help of Mary. Wow. Boy, you wouldn't want to be one of those people when you piss off St. Michael.
No, you don't want St. Michael.
You do not shoot. Let's make it clear right now. You do not shoot at the Virgin Mary. Let's make that clear worldwide. You do not shoot at the Virgin Mary. You will pay. So
you kind of have to wonder what is in their mind to even think like that. You know, oh, there's a lady up there in the sky. Well, let's shoot her. My goodness.
Oh, they don't care. I can see people today doing that. They don't care. St. Michael did. Can you believe that? 10,000 people ran like rats. They just ran like hell when St. Michael came down to blazing fire on his horse. Well, anyway, a new church was built on the site, and Father Wu placed a picture of Our Lady on the main altar. He asked the painter to dress Our Lady in the royal robes of the Dowager Empress Si. That's Chinese, so that's the best I can do. The image of the Blessed Virgin in the royal robes of the pagan empress with the Christ child on her knees is a vivid expression of Chinese tradition. Though her robes be pagan, she belongs to every age, to all people, and to every race. The beautiful church was built in her honor as a constant reminder to the people of Mary's loving and motherly protection. The church became a famous place for pilgrimages starting in 1924. Pope Pius XI approved it as an official Marian shrine in 1932. So say it took 32 years for that to be approved. But during World War II, it was destroyed by Japanese bombs. Oh, well. Now, there is another chapter to Donglu that we'll come back to on another date. I will just tell you that they had, in 1995, she returned to Donglu. And we'll get that story on another show, because it just kind of fits in with 1995 and what was going on then. But it's nice to know she can come back 95 years later. So what do you think of that story? Wasn't that impressive, how she scattered, or how St. Michael protected her?
That is something that is, we see this in the Old Testament quite a bit, actually. Not necessarily people shooting at the Virgin Mary, but we see where the Lord protects his people. You go to Joshua chapter 10, verse 10. Actually, 7, verse 10. Let's see. I'm looking at this. Yeah, chapter 10. It says, so Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his picked troops and the rest of his soldiers. Meanwhile, the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not fear them, for I have delivered them into your power. Not one of them will be able to withstand you." And when Joshua made his surprise attack upon them after an all-night march from Gilgal, the Lord threw them into disorder, kind of like what happened there with the story that you gave tonight, before him. The Israelites inflicted a great slaughter on them at Gilbeon and pursued them down. You see this a lot in the Old Testament, where even angels get involved. And here you have St. Michael that got involved. It's very interesting. Very
think
powerful.
of that. That's 1900. That's 1900. That's not that long ago. That was just 114 years ago. So that was pretty recent that she scattered all those rebels of the Boxer Rebellion. So, wow.
That Boxer Rebellion was not, it was no joke. I don't know, in fact, the movie called The Sand Pebble was inspired by that uprising, that rebellion that took place. And it was dangerous. Wow. And you know, when you have that kind of fervor, and I liked what you said about people shooting at the Virgin Mary. Would there be, excuse me, there's people there, I think, that would shoot at her today. When you look at some of these politicians who are trying to push for gay marriage and push for abortion and all these things, they're so far out into their agenda that they are taking pot shots at our Lord, taking pot shots at Our Lady.
Literally.
Spiritually speaking, So, I mean, what happened in 1900 in China? Wow, what a story that is.
Yeah, it's, well, and again, we saw this in Pontomain, France, when they prayed for help because the Prussian soldiers were about to invade, and they prayed and prayed for Mary's protection, and she appeared in the sky and reassured them, and then the next morning she appeared in front of those soldiers, put her hand out, and they basically said, the Blessed Virgin is forbidding us to come into this country. We're not going.
Oh.
So if you remember that story, I mean, she again showed up and stopped that. And we talked about Manila, Philippines in 1986 with President Marcos.
Yes.
The tanks were approaching the people, and they're all praying rosaries, and they have flowers, and they have statues of Mary, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a cross appears in the sky, and that's supposed to do it, you know. Yeah, they ignore that and keep coming. So Mary herself appears in front of the tanks in a blinding light and says in a voice that everyone could hear, "Stop! These are my children. Do not come closer. I am the queen of this land." Woo! And you know what? The soldiers stopped. They climbed down from their tanks and they joined the others, and President Marcos left for Hawaii that night because he had no one left to back him. Mary took out single-handedly the rest of his forces. So she does appear and do amazing things, and that was 1986. You know, so this is real important.
You take what happened in 1900 and then also here in 1986. Can you imagine, you know, before the Lord returns, something taking place that would be so dramatic that it would be hard for anyone to deny or to disbelieve? But people will, just like they did then. People will challenge God face to face, literally. You know, people don't. I don't know. It's unbelievable how people will.
People have gotten into themselves, into their egos, into the me generation. It's all about me and what I want and how I can get it, and I want the best and I want it now, and you know, everything's fast food and microwave, and you know, it's all about me. I want it now, and it's sad because, you know, I'm sure if Virgin Mary showed up, people would laugh and say, "Oh yeah, nice hologram, nice trick," and go on eating their McDonald's and die of a heart attack later that year. I mean, you know, from the McDonald's. I mean, what can we say? I mean, people are so much into themselves that they don't get it. And this is one reason I'm doing this show, because I want people to feel what I have learned from all of this and to hear it. And to, week after week, if you follow this, you will see what I'm talking about. It's a very impressive historic pattern that she has created. And Donald, you know, as you've gone through this, you see the patterns. You see the incredible details repeating week after week.
And I'm not the only one. We got Justin from New Orleans, Heidi from Germany, Claudia from Texarkana, which, you know, there's 3 states. You got Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri. I played state pitch softball there, and you got 3 states that kind of all merge on that one city. It's Texarkana, Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri. So we could claim all 3 of those states for that one. Elizabeth from Hong Kong, Evelyn from San Diego, California, of course Joseph from Colorado, Mary from New York, New York, Marilyn from the Philippines, Romeo from Saudi Arabia, Petchy from Taiwan, Bernandia from Hong Kong, Jasmine from Malaysia, Belma from El Salvador, Nancy from the Philippines, Evelyn from Florida, Fred from Cuppers Cove, Texas. He's one of my brothers over here, part of Deeper Truth as well. Again, Vienna from Macau, China. We got Caleb from Pennsylvania. We got Sue from the West Bank, Israel. This is just fantastic.
Oh, welcome back.
Oh,
yeah, she was with us last week. Yeah.
Yes, she was. And Joseph responds, he says, "Hello, world."
Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in, because it just underlines how important this is as a worldwide phenomenon. Mary did not come just to France.
No, and you kind of think that every now and then. I mean, how many times they were blessed. And despite that, see, that's what I was just getting at a while ago, as many times as you had heavenly visits there in France, and yet they are under the spiritual, I don't know, blindness that's going on there, this apathy, this secularism or whatever, socialism or whatever's going on there. You would wonder why that is taking place, why that is so, when they have been given so much, when you've been given so much blessing.
They've forgotten their own history, Donald. They've just forgotten their own history. And I can understand that, because as I came in as a Methodist and became Catholic, I started looking at all these things, and when I talked to other Catholics about it, they didn't know what I was talking about, because they hadn't been reading it or looking into it themselves.
Well, you know, I was going through Taco Bell. I was going by there, and I was trying out their breakfast menu. We have never had that taco burrito before, so we thought we'd with the waffle thing. You know, we'd seen it advertised, so we thought, hey, let's try it. So I went in there, and as I was making my order, you know, it had 12. I was looking at how much it cost, and so I identified with how much it cost, and I reflected, well, that's the time of St. Francis. And this lady was a young lady. She couldn't have been, 20. And she had never heard of St. Francis. Never heard of him. And I'm shocked.
Well,
you have never heard of St. Francis. And I'm wondering how we have dumbed ourselves down to such a degree that young people don't. I guess what you were just saying is about what's happening to not just France, but to the Western world in a large way, because they're not teaching they're not teaching real history, and they're not getting this at home.
Well, we can learn a lot from most people don't care about history. I hear them tell me, well, it's over, it's done, who cares? Well, we can learn an awful lot from our history, and I had no idea when I started looking into this. I had no idea that I would find so many stories repeating the same details and patterns, no matter what country or what year or what century. It didn't matter. They could know nothing about religion, and they'd still have a visit from her. They could hate the Virgin Mary, and she'd still show up to them. They could shoot bullets at her, and she would still make her point. I mean, tonight's stories have proven that whether you believe or not, she's there, and she will show up to anybody. But She said last week, I don't know if you remember this, she said converted sinners are such a pleasure for her.
Oh, well, our Lord says that. We know that the Lord would lead the 99 to go after the one who has gone astray, the prodigal son. James chapter 5:19 through 20, it says that if someone has gone astray from the truth, and then another brings them back, know that you have saved a soul from death and canceled a multitude of sin. It's over and over and over how much the Lord wants you to come home. And it's just a sad state. Unfortunately, what one generation tolerates, the next generation accepts. And that's kind of what's happening. And so that's why it's important for deeper truth and for other good Catholic outlets, Catholic Answers, Catholics Come Home, Defenders of the Catholic Faith, St. Paul Street Evangelization. All of these are good organizations out there that are trying to work towards bringing back the prodigals. That's what we all should be doing by virtue of our baptism and confirmation. And I am so thankful for you, John, for the work that you're doing in this ministry, in this apostolate. This is so ever important because of what we're saying.
I'll be honest, Don. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like a passionate mission because I believe so deeply in what I'm finding. And every time I find a new story that matches up again, it's like Christmas all over again. It's just like, wow. I get so excited because it makes it real all over again. And that's what happened to me. I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, she's really there. She's real. And not only is she real, Jesus is real, and God's real, and unfortunately Satan's real too. But I didn't like learning that part. But I had to face that all these things are really real and happening. So when people say God is dead, He's not there anymore, that's because they're dead. They're not paying attention. They aren't looking. They aren't looking. And that's why they don't see, because they're not looking. There, I've said it.
Well, that's what you and I are doing. We're trying to wake them up. Wake up!
That's right. Well, Donald, it's been a wonderful night, and I'm really pleased to hear from the West Bank of Israel again, and Germany and Saudi Arabia, and our new countries of Taiwan and Macau. That's awesome. And El Salvador. Those are all first time I've heard them join us. And, of course, I'm so used to Hong Kong and Philippines and all the others joining in, and from around the U.S., that's such a thrill to know that the whole world is listening and they care. So please, all of you, spread the word to others around you. This is so important. They need to know that this history is vibrant and real and teaches us a great deal about now, because now is what we've got, and now we need to pay attention.
Yeah.
So
it's all about God's love.
Anyway.
We also want to thank the callers, Joseph and Brandy, and we have another caller who just listening in, and that's okay too. Nothing wrong with that.
That might be my Ruthie.
It could be. It's
she was going to try
number.
I think she was going to try to call in and listen in. So she might just be doing that. So if that's you, Ruthie, God bless you. We love you too. Anyway, as always, I like everyone around the world to join me in what I'm about to say. I'm going to say a Hail Mary, and if we all say it together around the world, that's going to be a very powerful thing. So here we go. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. And next week, Donald, we are going to Fatima.
Ooh, Fatima.
And Fatima, everyone thinks, oh, yeah, I know that story. I'm telling you, I've dug up a lot of stuff from Lucia's diary and from other sources that many people have never heard. And it's going to go over probably about 3 weeks. It's going to take a while to go through everything from Fatima. We're going to go at night. So
Fatima's going to be a 3-week adventure.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be hard to hold back because everybody wants to hear the whole story right at once. But there is so much to tell. We'll just take it as it goes and not be in a hurry.
So we'll do part 1, part 2, part 3. That's how you do it.
Yep. Whatever it takes to get through it. We won't rush it. We want to give it justice. It's an important story. And again, most people don't know the whole story. So we'll be doing that starting next week. So everybody, good night for myself and Donald. Good night to you.
All right. Well, wait. Before we go, we got another caller. Why not give him a chance? I know who this caller is. Come on, Fred.
Hey, my
Hello,
brother.
Fred.
Hello, Mr. John Carpenter.
Hey, Fred, you got in under the wire.
Yes, I did. I was listening, and I was losing track of time. All of a sudden, I hear you signing out. I can't let that happen. It's just too good tonight.
Oh, bless you.
You know, the biggest problem, John, is we need to find some way to have the Holy Spirit just go to these people instantaneously and feel what we've felt, and they'd be converted in a second. But unfortunately, it's up to us to be the foot soldiers.
Well, I didn't used to be one of those, but boy, when it hit me, it was like my eyes were opened. Everything just made sense. All of everything suddenly came into focus, and it all came together. If you've ever seen that movie, The Miracle Worker, with Patty Duke and Anne Bancroft back in the 60s, a very great movie. It won an Academy Award. At the very end, she's been saying all these words and making hand gestures, and she suddenly connects water with water, the object or the substance, and water, the hand gesture, and you see the light go on in her. It means something. It finally means something, and that's how I felt, just like that.
Yeah,
the light
I know,
bulb
John.
came on.
Yeah.
Yes.
The same thing happened to me, John. Took me 73 years, and I tell younger people when I talk to them, I said, we don't have a time span. Our lives can be taken at any time, and I was blessed to get that lifespan. You might not have that lifespan.
Right.
So it behooves you to just research. Just go to the Catholic Church and talk to the priest, or talk to you or Don or myself or anybody that has felt the Holy Spirit, and walk them through the church and show them what the holy water is, and what the Blessed Virgin means to us, and what Jesus Christ and the Almighty mean to us. And they get a feeling. I know Don's done it. I know you've done it. You can see the lights, the eyes light up. Whether they follow through or not, that's up to them. But I've seen it, and I know you've seen it.
I have. All right. Well, thank you, Fred, for calling in. We're always glad to hear from you, and bless you for all the work.
It's a great bonus. Great bonus.
Yes, very much. And Donald, again, good night, and we'll see everybody next week. Have a good week.
Good night,
John.
everybody. Good night.